Greetings, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Critical Podcast. I am your host, Jimmy Good, and joining me once again is my go-to podcast compadre and co-host, Mr. Joe Lever. Joe, how are you doing tonight, my friend?
Excellent, Jimmy. Thank you very much. How are you doing this fine evening?
I'm doing fine. As we talked about before the show, I scarfed down a ton of Olive Garden. This is not a sponsored episode, but Joe thought it'd be kind of funny if I talked a little bit about what I had tonight from Olive Garden.
I mean, the way you described it, the amount of Olive Garden I forced into my body is not good.
Yep.
As long as it didn't require a plunger, I mean, I think you'll be okay.
I will neither confirm nor deny the use of a plunger. So, basically tonight I'm a build your own pasta kind of guy. And
Really?
I don't know, which is, it can be kind of, make or break. I like the rigatoni noodles, and for people who don't know what those are, they're kind of like short, like stubby cylinders, but they're actually pretty wide. I don't know why I like those ones, I just do. And I got 5 cheese marinara on them because I've gotten the spicy stuff in the past, and man, oh man, sometimes spicy rigatoni will destroy me. Like, it's way spicier than I think it's going to be.
I mean, I do like me some spicy sauce.
I know. Well, I liked this, but to be honest, the real thing I love the most is like starting off with the breadsticks and like dipping them into the marinara cheese sauce stuff. And the breadsticks, man, tonight they were on point, baby. They were just, oh goodness, like those breadsticks, I could annihilate a huge basket worth of breadsticks.
Are they like soft and moist, or are they kind of dry?
Here's the great thing about these ones is that they were a bit of both. They were like, so they have like a crunchy kind of exterior where they're kind of like buttered and like kind of salted, but then on the inside they're soft. So like it's, I don't know, it's just kind of the best of everything you want. It's not like, I wouldn't say necessarily moist, but they're really good. They're really good. And also, you know what?
Okay.
Again, this isn't a sponsored one. I had a little bit of salad. I did not finish that. I started with the rigatoni, which is probably good. Come back to the salad later. Salad's great. It's mostly the dressing, but I love the Andes mints. Little chocolate / mint flavored little mints at the just like so good.
The kind you find on your pillow at a fine resort.
Oh, exactly. So yeah, man, I don't know why we're talking about Olive Garden so much, because we talk about pop culture usually on the show, but it's just to show that I too am a human, even if it doesn't seem like I am.
He's a robot who likes Italian food. Let's not fool ourselves.
What can I say? It gets in my gears. It messes me up, but I do it once in a while. Anyway, yes.
5 cheese marinara. That's excellent lubrication for the inner workings of any android.
Exactly.
Everyone knows it doubles as oil. As
long as I don't swallow gum, because my buddy Vision did that once and it really messed him up. It was crazy. I don't know. It's a whole thing. He's in an interesting relationship with this one lady named Wanda. I don't want to talk about it right now. We're all buddies. We're all friends. I just haven't seen him for a while. So it's fine. It's fine. Anyway, on today's show, we are going to talk about something that was kind of a write-in question. And I thought this would make for such a fun episode because I don't know if we talked about this before. I feel so bad if we have, because we probably mentioned some of these aspects in the past. But we're going to talk about our top 3 favorite animated and or cartoon shows of all time today. We'll probably have some honorable mentions in there because honestly 3 doesn't really do it justice, especially for me. I love me some animated stuff like the cartoons, but this will not be including anime. So, or if anybody's out there and they love like anime stuff, this just probably wouldn't be the best show to do it on. Joe, you're not necessarily a big anime guy, so I wouldn't want to force you into picking things that you don't really consume.
Yeah.
That wouldn't be fair. That wouldn't be nice. So
yeah, I have nothing against anime. Let's be clear on that. I mean,
I think you'd love
technically, like Pokemon, Yu-Gi-Oh, those are anime technically. Right?
I think like technically you might be right. So maybe they're gonna there's gonna be some gray areas here for people. So like just keep that in mind too. That some of those things we're gonna
the illustration style, right?
Yeah, it's
the whole like stylistic ideal and the angular cuts of everything. I don't know. Okay, never mind. I'm dipping a toe in the territory I've never traveled.
Don't do it. The anime fans are coming for you, Joe. But anyway, so like I said, there might be a little bit of gray area here today, and maybe they're just like from like shows from our childhood, maybe shows more recently. It doesn't really matter. But Joe, if you don't mind, I would love to go first. I'm gonna take it away
But
from you.
by all means,
I think the
inevitably.
other night Joe mentioned a few of the ones he was gonna pick, so just for fun, I was like, you know what? I'm gonna try not to pick the same ones, just so we can have a little bit more of a conversation, maybe a little bit more variety for the people out there who are listening to the show. I want to start with one that might be a little bit more of an odd choice, and for me, it might be my favorite
Fairly
thing.
Odd Parents.
Very good, Joe. It's Fairly Odd Parents. I love them. No. I that Fairly Odd Parents was fine. I was more of a Danny Phantom guy. I liked Danny Phantom. I always thought that was cool. He kept getting more ghost powers. I was like, who is this guy? Anyway, uh, so yes, it's Fairly Odd Parents. No, this one comes in from a group that honestly, compared to the other group we'll talk to tonight, don't have as many beloved cartoons, and that's Marvel. Weirdly, Marvel on the animated front has a few, and I was talking to someone today, the guy who actually recommended this idea, Wes. So Wes, thank you for recommending this idea. Kind of his question, but he said like, oh, there's Spider-Man and the old X-Men from the 90s. Those are kind of like probably some of the more higher up like Marvel cartoons that people remember fondly or like to go back to. I actually really liked there was a run of a show called Spectacular Spider-Man that came out in like the mid 2000s. That's super duper good. And I'm still waiting for it to come onto Disney Plus because like a bunch of other Spider-Man stuff is on there except that specific show. So we'll see about that. But the show I want to talk about today is what I think has still not been topped, and that is Earth's Mightiest Heroes. So Avengers, Earth's Mightiest Heroes. It is a show that ran for 2 seasons. It got cut off because they started doing a new version of it, in a sense, about the Avengers that was more a little closer to the relation of the actual films. It isn't the exact film stuff because they do crazier adventures because it's a cartoon show. However, Earth's Mightiest Heroes, man, is like, oh man, it's on Disney Plus. First off, we're gonna try to tell you where you can find all of these too. It's on Disney Plus, and it is so freaking good. It follows a lot of the comic storylines. There's something about the animation style that I just absolutely really like about it. It's just something about it. There's angle, there's a brightness, there's a momentum to it that looks so cool. And I don't know, it's just one of my favorite it might be my, I don't know, besides the live action stuff, I think it's probably my favorite like incarnation of the Avengers themselves. And the show understands the characters super well. One of my favorite examples of it is they go to Latveria at one point, the Avengers do, to fight Doctor Doom over something. And Doctor Doom is actually kind of a decent presence sometimes in the show. He's a villain, but also an anti-hero, so he kind of helps him sometimes. But his computer is rattling off the names of the Avengers and talking about all of them and kind of ranking them as far as like how much they are of a threat to him. And it does it perfectly. Like it just goes down the list, and as the computer is saying these things, I'm like, yeah, this computer's just spitting facts. Like the show understands its audience and it understands its characters so well. And you have, like, for instance, the Hulk in this show might say a few words once in a while, but he's not constantly cracking jokes because he's the Hulk. That's not really his thing to do. Not everybody in this version of the show makes a ton of jokes. Like Captain America is like the classic Boy Scout Captain America. Like he's not always, always cracking wise and that type of thing. Like he will make a joke from time to time, but he's like one of the leaders of it. And I also really love this version of Iron Man. They do a really great job of doing like a kind of, it's almost Robert Downey Jr.-ish, but not version of him who's this kind of troubled leader of the team. And man, I don't know. It's super good. If you like the Avengers at all, Joe, I think you would even like this show. There's probably a few episodes in there that you'd probably like gravitate more towards, but it's just such a great show and some really cool villains and stuff. Some villains in there that we haven't still seen in the MCU that they get to fight or to that level. And yeah, man, I just absolutely adore it. If you like Marvel at all, check out Earth's Mightiest Heroes on Disney Plus. It's super good, and I went and watched it again recently, and I was like, I love this show, and I watched it really fast. Watched all of it. It goes by pretty quick. And they set up stuff for season 3, and then it got shut down. And I was like, oh, happens with the cartoon shows,
Huh. How
Yeah.
many episodes a season? Like 20?
That's a great question. I can look that up. I think it was like that, or maybe a little bit more, because I think it was probably like 40 plus episodes. So it's not a lot, but there's a lot to it. There's a lot to it. It's a good show.
Not a detail to get hung up. I'm just curious.
Yep, I'll look it up though. Do you have any questions, Joe, about the show?
Do I have any questions about it?
Yeah. Oh, I can also probably tell people like the team is comprised. I think of like the original Avengers team. It's like Ant-Man and Wasp are there, but it's like Hank Pym, like the original
Oh,
Ant-Man is
the
part of
OG.
this. Yep, and then Iron Man, Hawkeye, Hulk, and Captain America. Black Widow kind of comes and goes because she actually plays like a double agent, and nobody ever knows if they can trust her. So that's kind of a cool thing where it's like she comes in, you're like, you're working for Hydra, and she's like, I was a double agent. It's like, were you really? Like, so she has an actual interesting relationship with Hawkeye, which I really enjoyed. So yeah, I don't know, it's great, it's good. They even have like Captain
Yeah.
Marvel in there. They got a lot of stuff. They do a lot of things. They do Secret Invasion stuff, Skrull, the Kree, that stuff that'll probably come into the MCU eventually. They even do a little bit of X-Men stuff, Spider-Man even, I believe. Like, there's a lot in that show. Yeah. Yeah.
Well,
Yeah. So you might like it. Is there any selling point to you, Joe? Is there like something where, like I said, they have this, you'd be like, okay, I'll check it out.
not totally. I think uh, not to be a Debbie Downer or killer, but
It's okay.
I,
You can't kill my hype.
I when it comes to animated anything these days, I'm kind of more. I gravitate a little bit more towards the adult humor animation.
Yeah.
You know, um,
I'm so glad that
so,
you're on the show. You're like, oh, you're talking about this thing is for kids. I don't want it. Give me more Family Guy.
I mean, Family Guy may be an example. Although the humor a little. I don't know. Sometimes there's some depth to it, but most of the time it's just pretty. Here's the jokes.
Mm-hmm.
So no, I mean at best I would give Family Guy an honorable mention. I don't necessarily think it's very tasteful per se, but and of course you have your classics like The Simpsons and everything, which interestingly enough is growing up as like a teenager or like middle school age, like 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. The Simpsons, oh, that was the deal, and like every Sunday, you got to see that new episode on Fox, right? And so that was a big deal. Um, and it's funny how I kind of grew out of it. Now I don't really enjoy or care to watch The Simpsons at all. I don't know
Oh,
what it is. Yellow characters and all, sometimes it weirds me out a little bit as I've grown older. There's something that just seems slightly distasteful to me. Even though I know it's an excellent, the OG adult animated series. How many seasons are they on? 30 something?
yeah.
Yeah.
They've done a lot.
So,
So this
yeah.
Simpsons is not your third. And if you don't have any questions about Earth's Mightiest Heroes, what is your third, or what is one of your three that you're excited to talk about that isn't The Simpsons?
Uh, Honestly, I mean, I only have two. I only have two. So I was kind of using the number three slot as just a few honorable mentions of mine that, you know, maybe growing up were impactful on me and I enjoyed.
You
And
gotta
that
have a
I've spent a lot
third.
of time
There's got to be
enjoying.
something in
So
there. You said Fairly Odd Parents so quick. Is that what it is? Is Fairly Odd Parents your
no, I
number
just thought it was
three?
funny because you're saying my first choice is a bit odd. And I was like,
Fairly Odd.
got him.
Uh,
Yeah, I honestly, God, I'm trying to think what else. I did enjoy King of the Hill quite a bit.
okay,
Uh, you know, that grew on me a bit too because it was always on, a little after The Simpsons on that whole Sunday night run of Fox shows.
sure.
So that was a good one. Yeah, I can't think of any others that are just stand out enough that I'd want to like gush over them per se.
We'll put you
Um,
down for
you
Gargoyles
know,
then. It's perfect. Dark,
as a
gritty,
real young
ominous.
kid, I enjoyed it. I haven't seen Gargoyles since I was probably like 7 or 8,
Oh, really?
maybe even younger. I don't know. It's been a long time. But I remember, yeah, I had a couple action figures from
Yeah.
Gargoyles. You had to have the figurines. And yeah. So yeah, I mean that's one going way back. But I mean, I haven't seen anything to do with Gargoyles and the exact, yeah, almost half a lifetime ago for me.
It's time
more
to
than
fire that Disney
So,
Plus. Let's just get it going, baby. Just pop
yeah,
them on.
which I know we've talked about it once or twice before. I never even realized that that was a Disney property.
Oh yeah,
Um,
baby.
yeah,
So good. Where's that live action remake? Disney. I volunteer as Brooklyn. I'm just kidding. I don't know.
I would be I would be upset with myself if I didn't mention Batman Beyond. Um, of like the Saturday morning cartoons type of a thing, which I think eventually it was on like the CW, which was back then the WB or something like that, or
WB
PAX.
Kids,
Yeah, something like that. But I
maybe.
remember it was on like in that late afternoons when you get
Okay.
home from school at like 4. And of course, I got home. We got to watch the Batman Beyond, and and of all the Batman stuff, and we've talked about it before in kind of uh, uh, a different avenue. But I really think something an adaptation of that in the live action could be really dope. But I always enjoyed the style of that show. I forget his name right now.
Terry
Right?
McGinnis, dude.
McGinnis.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah.
McGinnis.
Ev-
McGinnis.
yeah. Yeah. Everything was just very stylish, though, and kind of aggressive, dark, fast paced, but still had that young, hip vibe to it because it was like, Batman Beyond, the new young kid. He had the girlfriend and stuff, but he had this secret life. I mean, I think it was really well done for an animated series, and it actually wasn't. Thinking back to it's been a long time, but I don't remember it being all that childish either. Like it was pretty, like it was Batman grit. I think they did a good job with it. So, um, I think of my third place honorable mentions, I mean, that's kind of topping the charts. I also remember as a kid, I was real into um, uh, whatever the mainstream Spider-Man cartoon was.
Was it the 90s one? The Spider-Man in the 90s, probably? The Spider-Man,
Probably,
Spider-Man, radioactive Spider-Man.
yeah,
It was
yeah,
like CG
yeah.
buildings and stuff.
Sure,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
I remember watching that, of course, and I mean, what young kid boy wasn't into that
So
show?
wait, are you
So.
giving it? Would you put Batman Beyond over that maybe for Spider-Man?
Oh yeah, I think I
Okay.
put Batman Beyond over that just because it had a maybe fresher take and style to it that I enjoyed and a
So
little
you need
more.
to. I would like it if you would check out the first 2 or 3 episodes. They're on HBO Max. I just rewatched that whole season or series. It's only like 3 seasons long. They're like 12 episodes maybe. Oh,
Yeah,
by the
it's only
way,
3 seasons long. I
it
saw
kills me.
that.
By the way, the Earth's Mightiest Heroes 52 episodes, so not that bad. But anyway, Batman
Mhm.
Beyond. Okay, it is so good and it holds up so much. And I think this is how people who grew up with Batman the Animated Series feel about Batman the Animated Series. And I kind of grew up
Mhm.
with Batman the Animated Series as well, a little bit. But
Sure.
I feel bad because for the people out there who are listening to this, I know there are people out there who love that show so much, and without that, Batman Beyond wouldn't exist. I totally understand it. To me, though,
Duh.
Batman Beyond is infinitely more entertaining. The Batman, the animated series, I think there's an iconic look to it, like the cool red skies and like how the Dark Knight, how he moves around and stuff. But man, those episodes are desperately slow compared to Batman Beyond. Batman Beyond is much more high octane, action packed, and they're like some of my favorite anime where I watch it and in like a blink of an eye, the episode feels like it's done because it's moving so fast, and the relationship that isn't present in the animated series. You kind of get it a little bit later on with Robin, but not really. This constant relationship between Bruce and Terry is so much fun to listen to and how it evolves over time. Because in the beginning, Terry is kind of like, I'll do whatever Bruce says. But then over time, he starts to get a little more snarky with him. And it's so much fun to like hear him make fun of the original old school Batman and how that Batman though, like Bruce Wayne, is still a scary dude even if he's old.
Yeah.
Like there's a few times that he gets to like have a little bit like get into a fight. There's some action, and you're like, whoa, this guy's still like he's like, yeah, if you trip him, he's gonna mess you up. But if he's up there with his cane, he'll beat you up, dude. Like he's
Yeah.
not, he doesn't want to deal with young punks anymore. But man, Batman Beyond, it holds up, and I want so badly for the next, like, besides Gotham Knights, I just want that Batman Beyond game, because just like that's the cyberpunk future game that I want, is because like the suit also makes him like a super powered individual. It gives him strength and speed. He can actually fly. He can go invisible, which I don't know why he doesn't have that cranked up all the time. I feel like one line in the show should say like,
Takes
well,
too much power from the suit,
yeah,
Jimmy.
exactly.
Loses the
They
other
never
abilities.
say that though. He just turns it off sometimes. Then he'll get cracked with something, and I'm like, dude, just leave it on. Like you just like nobody knows you're there. But yeah, you're right. There's some stuff in there that was much more adult oriented or more kind of teen oriented, because Terry is obviously like a teenager. But yeah, it's a great show, and then eventually he gets that friend Max, who's like one of the only people to kind of understand his identity. And there's this really kind of interesting dynamic between her and Bruce, because she like wants in on all this stuff, and Bruce is like, yeah, that's never gonna happen. Like she's like, oh, I want to come see the Batcave. He's like, nope, never gonna happen. Like he's
Who
just
is
like,
Max?
Max is his friend at high school. I think she shows up in, is it season 2 maybe she shows up in season 2, and she's a bigger player in season 3.
Who's the girlfriend though? Didn't
His
he have a
girlfriend's name
girlfriend?
is
Dark
Dana.
hair girl?
Dana, who he is serious, kind of on again, off again, but he actually falls in love with somebody from the Royal Flush Gang, who is like those people who are dressed up as like kind of card players, and they have like these floating cards they fly around on, and so she's basically like the Selena Kyle of Terry McGinnis's world, because there's like a moment in the first season where he kind of falls for her, and then finds out later on that she's actually like a villain, and she like talks to Batman at one moment, and she's like hands him a note and says like, can you give this to Terry McGinnis, because like he's someone I know, and I'm gonna go to jail or whatever, or I'm gonna get taken down. And he just like takes the note and like throws it away. And it comes up in later seasons, they talk about that, but Bruce even puts his, like, they're walking away once, and he's like, Bruce, I don't know what to tell you, like, this woman that's just kind of messing with my mind. And he's like, let me tell you about someone named Selena Kyle. And you're like, oh, so they have like a moment where it's like, yep, trust me, I've dealt with my own femme fatales before. But yeah, it's a great show. And one thing, it's not too wacky. There's a few of his villains that are kind of a little bit wackier, but they have a lot of tech-based villains that are like really fitting for the futuristic stuff, and they're not like
on par with
wacky.
him, right? Yeah.
Yes, yeah, for sure. Like there's Ink, who's just like, she's this really like scary I don't know if she's technically a mutant, but she can like turn herself into like a pool of ink, and like she can like move around really fast, and she can slip in anywhere, and she's like one of the only villains to like break into the Batcave, because she like gloms on to the Batmobile and flies back, and like she infiltrates the Batcave. So then later on, Terry's like, you see him like welding things shut underneath doors, so that way she could never break back in, and it's stuff like that. I don't know, I can go on and on. Batman Beyond is fantastic, and it's all on HBO Max now, and it's a perfect show to watch like after midnight. It's super good, because there's something about that show that feels like you need to watch it like late at night. It's like there's something about it, man. Ugh. And all the black and the red,
gritty vibes.
Dude, his suit is so like, I just love his suit. I love capes, don't get me wrong, but there's something about the Batman Beyond suit that like, and also there's a great tie-in movie called Return of the Joker, and then there is a finale episode in Justice League Unlimited in season 2, I think it is. It's called Epilogue, and it actually ties up what a future Terry McGinnis would look like in his like late 20s, early 30s, because the team from Batman Beyond, they got shuttered and brought into Justice League, so they wanted to have like a final recap of like what happened with Terry and his relationship with Bruce and all that. It's pretty cool. Sorry, Batman Beyond rant over, but I just had to talk about it.
Oh, that was good. That was good. I'm glad that I mentioned it so you could talk about it. It was perfect.
Please watch it, Joe. You'd love it. You'd be like, oh my gosh, look at this guy.
Maybe I should watch it again. I mean, you kind of inspired me a little bit.
Dude,
it sounds like good stuff.
If you get to the point where you watch Return of the Joker, you can watch the amazing explosions. Man, they're so good. They like blow up and then blow up again. It's so cool. Like animated explosions are so cool to me. I'm like,
wait, Michael Bay? What?
Dude, it's just like, and the noises, oh man, it's so good. I like that suit, man. I really freaking like that suit. So good.
Before we go any further, I feel like I have to explain what's going on here, like why I look down here. It looks like I'm either A, sleeping and talking, or B, extremely high and really out of it. I mean, I might be a little out of it. It's been a day, but my camera's up there.
It's up
My
here.
screen is down here. I'm in a different locale for
Yeah.
recording this evening, due to circumstances beyond my control.
Oh,
Kinda, sorta. But anywho, I just want to explain that so people don't think I'm either, a real heavy stoner or sleeping through this.
I don't think so.
Oh,
And for our audio listeners, he's just in a different location. So if you're just listening to this, you're like, what is he talking about?
yeah, if you're just listening, none of that mattered. Oh, and in the dark hallway behind me, that something scary is definitely going to come running down and grab
It's
me.
me. I'm coming out of there. Wouldn't that be great?
That would really be weird.
Like this was all pre-recorded. Like
Then
I
who
just
am I talking to?
exactly. This is all just like I
Pre-recorded?
was one of those intelligent villains who just like thought the whole conversation through, and then I was there. I'm like, ah, that'd be perfect. Perfect, I tell
Absolutely
you.
impossible.
So anyway, your number 3 is Batman Beyond, sort of, kind of,
Sure.
which is great.
I mean, we got there eventually.
We got there eventually. That's very true.
Yeah.
That's very true.
What's your number 2, Jimmy?
Let's keep it in the DC realm. And actually, I was kind of fighting in my heart over this a little bit because I've been watching.
Wow.
I've been watching through Static Shock, which is a great show. I really do like it. Virgil, it's like Spider-Man. He's like a young kid who gets these superpowers. He's pretty intelligent, and he fights a lot of like elemental or kind of animal-based villains. Check out Static Shock. And there's actually a live-action movie that's coming up soon too, which I'm really curious to see. But it's so funny to me because Static is so much more powerful than pretty much all of his rogues gallery. He can kind of take anybody out, even like his biggest bad, he can like destroy in like one shot. It's pretty good. So they have to like kind of have like 3 or 4 people fight him at the same time. But yeah, I've always loved Static. I think he's super cool. And then Batman Beyond was another one. I was like, oh, should I put this as like my favorite DC show of all time because I really like it. But there's one that's better than the rest in my eyes. And like I said, DC's got a ton of great, you can't really go wrong with any of them. And it's not Justice League. A lot of people might think I'm going to say Justice League or Justice League Unlimited. My big issue with Justice League is that sometimes it gets a little too wacky for me. And I like the Justice League proper, but some of those episodes they're fighting like the weirdest villains, and it's just all just so nuts, so crazy. It's I don't know. There's something about it that I'm just like, this is okay. It's just not as compelling as some of these other maybe more narrow focused shows. But this show I'm going to bring up now does have a few crazy villains, but it's the show, Joe, that I have the most love for. And that you'll probably know why after I say it. But it's a show that was the first thing I watched when I got cable back when I was a teenager. And they were like, "Hey, is this like this is the channel you want to watch?" And it was on Cartoon Network, and it was showing an episode of this show. And I was like, "Yes, it is," because up until this point, I'd only ever watched it on like Saturday mornings, and I had to like, record episodes and rewatch episodes before I went to school because that's how much I love this thing. But I'm talking about the one and only Teen Titans. Oh my gosh, it's so good and I love it so much. Also, really fun thing about this, a lot of the shows we're talking about today are still in like 4:3. Static Shock, Batman Beyond. So if you watch them on your newer TVs, you'll get the black bars on the side. I don't know if they did like a remaster or whatever to Teen Titans, or maybe it was just new enough, but the thing fills the whole screen, and oh my gosh, it looks so good. And I was going to research this, and I forgot to. I feel bad. But I feel like there's a lot of Japanese inspiration in Teen Titans. It feels very anime because the fights are really cool and serious, but a lot of times when they show off emotion and stuff, they'll cut to like a completely different art style for like a joke. But the show is so good up until this day. I just watched through one of the major arcs in the show, and I was like, man, this is still so cool. And the way they frame the shots and the way they there's really an artistic vision behind everything they're doing here. And it's a show about 5 teenagers, I should say, who have a giant building in the shape of a T, and they are the protectors of this city. Maybe it's San Francisco. I don't know. I think it's on the West Coast. I'm not really sure. Actually, no, it's probably on the East Coast because the sun rises up. I don't know. Either way, it's such a great show. If you guys don't know who I'm talking about, the team consists of Robin, and that's right, that's Robin like from Batman. I don't know why he left Batman, but before he came Nightwing, he was Robin on Teen Titans. Cyborg, Beast Boy, Starfire, and Raven. Joe and I've been watching the Titans TV show recently, and I've seen like Titans. I've seen
So much better, right?
yeah. So it's fine. It's fine. I don't know, but there's like the animated Titans movies. It's just not like this. There's something magical about this, and obviously some people might be familiar with Teen Titans Go, which is kind of like the I don't want to say kiddie version, but it's way more slapsticky version of the Titans. That's really, really popular. Was really, really popular, even more so than the original show. But there's something kind of mature about some of the episodes you get with the original Teen Titans. And man, oh man, I love it. And some of the fight scenes are just downright brutal. And it was my very first exposure to the man you see right back over here that I'm pointing at, but that is Deathstroke. Now, on the show, because it was kind of a kid show, quote unquote, they couldn't call him Deathstroke, so they called him Slade, like Slade Wilson. So he was just Slade. He's always just Slade. And in the show, he's much more like Doctor Doom, where he's kind of like, he's very like manipulative from behind the shadows. Like he doesn't like to get his hands dirty too often if he can help it. But when he does, he's that kind of he's a big threat, like a really good threat. And man, there's so many cool things, and they go so many crazy places with the show. It's 5 seasons long. And they have big, cool arcs focusing on all the characters, the relationships that form in between them, romantic or not. And it just feels like such a good, cohesive show. I really highly recommend you check it out. Teen Titans, it's my favorite DC animated show of all time. It's just so freaking good. Anyway, Joe, what do you think about Teen Titans? You're familiar with it? I know we've talked about it a little bit in the past year.
Yeah, I mean, I'm familiar-ish with it. I did see it back in the day, a time or two.
Nothing more than that? Didn't grab you?
Yeah.
Who's your favorite Titan?
Not, but
That's fine. Out of the 5 I mentioned.
I liked the psychic goth girl.
Raven. I like that one.
Yeah. Yeah, I did like Raven in the show.
Yeah.
But in the new live-action Titans show on HBO Max, which is not a bad show by any means, I do enjoy it. There are some issues, but whatever. It's the exact opposite. I do not like Raven, and I definitely don't like Starfire. Hell, I barely like Robin. I think the only one that's likable is Beast Boy, and then Batman when he's crushed under that concrete slab. I mean, spoiler alert.
Is he or isn't he? No. It's funny too because in this show, like the cartoon show, Beast Boy I think would probably be the most grating of the whole team. Like he's very jokey and stuff, but he kind of comes off probably flat to some of the other characters on the team. But
Sure.
there's still a camaraderie between them all. I just want to know how they're funded. Like I don't know if like the city's paying them to stay there. I just like these are things I
the
want.
giant tower shaped like a T.
Yeah, and also the level of destruction these teenagers can produce, and the town is okay with it. Like a lot of fights end with them like using a piece of like I don't know a building or a structure that's like part of the city and just ripping it down and using it to like end a fight. And it's like I guess they won, but I mean at what cost, guys? Like I saw Cyborg the other day pick up an entire building intact and smack a guy with it, and I was like how did he? That's incredible. Good job, Cyborg. Yes. Also, it's my favorite incarnation probably of all of those characters. I really do like all of them for the most part. Like I said, Beast Boy can be a little annoying, but yeah, it's a great show. You should check it out. I feel like there's more serious episodes, Joe, that you would probably get a kick out of, especially like the arc that we saw in the first season of the Titans show with Trigon. And in this show, it's a huge deal. It's a 3-part like thing, and even before that there's like 2 or 3 or 4 episodes that lead up to it, just kind of always kind of teasing it. And then Slade actually gets in the mix, and spoiler alert, he gets superpowers. He's both unkillable and he gets like fireballs and stuff like that. It's amazing. It's so cool because it's like this guy up until this point has been this like kind of shadowy figure, and now he's fighting the Titans by himself, and they like keep trying to kill him basically, and he just kind of steps up and he'll like kind of crack his neck and just keep walking towards them, and you're like, whoa, that guy's crazy. Like, oh, it's just so good. And he's voiced by the one and only Ron Perlman, who you guys might know as Hellboy. Or back in the day, he played Hellboy. He does a great job playing a creepy Slade. Oh gosh, it's so good, man. Some of the best fights in any show like this. They get real brutal. You're like, whoa, okay, all right. Anyway, Teen Titans. That's my favorite. There you go. Joe, what's your number two? You got a number two for us? Because I know you said you picked two out here. So these must be big
Yeah.
ones.
Yeah, my number two, I think, was fairly easy to arrive at. Um, and I always come back to it one way or another every year or so. And I'll watch the new season and then I'll go back and rewatch like all the old seasons. So I've seen all the seasons probably three times ish. Um, and that show is Archer. I It was really interesting at first, and I forget when they started that show. It would have been probably when I was in college, and I would have watched a bit of it. Initially, it was kind of off-putting to me. It took a lot to get used to the animation style. So for a second, I really wasn't into it, but then all of a sudden, I started to really appreciate it. Um, it is more of a adult animation. Could just as easily be kind of a live action deal, but it's a little slapsticky, um, and it just works. I've really learned to appreciate it. It's I wouldn't call it highbrow comedy. It's just comedy. It's kind of that slapstick spy agency hoopla, and I enjoy it. And I really like the voice actor for Archer. I forget his name, but he also does like Bob's Burgers. There's something else that he did I can't recall. But and in all honesty, the casting for the voice acting is excellent through and through. Aisha Tyler as Lana. It just yeah, I really I don't know. I don't know much more to say. I like a lot of the storylines that they develop. It starts out in the first, I think I forget how many seasons, but it's quite a ways in, probably seven or eight, whatever. They go through they just go through a lot of different scenarios with like the jobs that ISIS, the spy agency, is obtaining and working on, and just the different antics that they get into on missions. Um, and the butt of every joke is like Archer's relationship with his mother and his alcoholism, and there's a lot of like stereotypical type call outs and things of that nature. Um, and I just liked that uh, guessing game. It wasn't necessarily like a Smallville villain of the week type of situation, but it was just a new situation each time, and it was fairly creative each time. And those situations were so different, but it's all still based around the spy agency. What are they doing for the gig this time? Who's paying them to do what, right? Um, but then in later seasons, it gets to the point of they're on a mission, and Archer actually gets put into a coma. He gets shot, and so he's in a coma. But they use that as a way to create these more outlandish storylines where he's like in a different world each time. One minute he goes back to like the 1940s or 50s, and he's like a private eye, and all the people he knows are characters within the story that he's dreaming, and they call it Dreamland or whatever. And then the next season, he's still in the coma, but they change the setting. Now he's on Danger Island or whatever, and he's a what do they call the seaplane pilot for supplies and stuff, and they go after this treasure, and the Germans invade. It's a whole thing, and I just like that creativity that they use, like him in a coma as a means of changing the storyline and keeping it fresh. So in a lot of ways, I think there's creative writing going on there that really kind of changes it up so it doesn't become mundane with the same kind of through line. Um, and so I think it adds a sense of freshness and makes it palatable each season. Um, and then so the latest season they brought it back to center and into the normal situation. But yeah, yeah, I appreciate it. It's good adult humor. I think for me, get home from a long day's work, I actually laugh out loud at it. I find it to be a little more appealing than, like, say, a Family Guy, which is a little more, I don't know how you put it. I wouldn't. Family Guy is just a little more pop culture references and current events, that sort of thing, which is fine. But I also feel like sometimes it's a little. Um, I appreciate it, but it's a little lewd. Whereas this is more, it's just stylish. I wouldn't call it highbrow, but it knows its place, and I think it's got well developed characters that create the humor. It doesn't rely on outside factors and things of that nature, and all the while kind of maintaining a sense of realism. So yeah, I just really like it, and I think it's kind of a one-off deal. I think the animation is what really hits it home. It was something that at first was slightly off-putting to me, but when I got into it and started to appreciate it for what it was, now I really appreciate that animation style. Like sometimes, like environments seem totally real to you, whereas the characters you can totally tell that like they're drawn with like a uh, in ink. I'm sure all digitally, obviously, because even digitally, it's hard to. It takes a lot of time to even create a half-hour episode of an animated series. Um, but needless to say, I mean, it's that contrast of like a almost like artfully painted environment that's really nicely done to kind of an ink drawn character, but albeit like a very realistically drawn but still animated. I don't know how to explain it, but if you ever get a chance to look up Archer, if you're not familiar with it, you'll understand what I'm saying. It's just got a very one-off, interesting animation style that I appreciate. Um, so, yeah, I mean, I guess I'll not drone on longer and turn it over to you, Jimmy. I'm sure. I don't know if you have any comments on it, but
Oh,
that's my number two.
nice. That was cool because early on you're like, I don't know if there's much more to say about it. That I think the most of your discussion there was after that point. So you had stuff to say about it. Clearly, it's something that you're passionate about, which is a good thing.
I felt guilty.
You should feel guilty. The people from
Yeah.
Archer are watching. They want to have better representation. All I can say is this: I like Aisha Tyler. I think she's great.
Yeah,
I'll miss her at the press conferences if they don't do them anymore. Just Ubisoft, come on, just whatever you're doing, just have Aisha Tyler announce it. She's great. Anyway, so now we're moving Joe into number one territory. I don't know if necessarily this is like the best, like, because obviously I'm kind of personally going in like, oh, this is the Marvel camp, the DC camp, kind of whatever your mood is. But this is a show that I feel like it kind of destroyed some of the preconceived notions about what people could do as far as animation in the West was concerned with. And this show happens to be a show that I think was very heavily inspired by a different anime, by a bunch of different cultures, and was something that we'd never really seen before, and that is Avatar: The Last Airbender. I would be remiss not to bring this show up today, just because while the first season, I will admit, there are moments in it where it's definitely a little more kid-like. Once the finale of season one shows up, and then season two, and then especially season three, it is a very different show. Very, feels more mature. There's still funny moments. Don't get me wrong. There's moments of levity and stuff, but the story of a 12-year-old boy who grows up a couple years basically, but got trapped in ice 100 years ago during this kind of really tumultuous time when the Fire Nation, this group, kind of went around trying to kill all of his people, trying to prevent the rise of the next Avatar, who in this world could manipulate all four elements, that being air, fire, earth, and water. The show is just, I don't know, man. It's so good. There's this nomadic feel. Kind of Joe was talking about this earlier, I think even with Archer. But there's something about it where like each episode feels different. And while they're not all created equal, there's something kind of cool about seeing different portions of this world that are inspired by our own, and how the different bending styles and types really kind of like, shape those cultures. And like, it's so cool to watch this guy's journey of learning all this stuff, because you feel like there's a natural progression to the show, and by the time he's at the end of his journey, he's so much different than he was at the beginning, even though he's only aged maybe like a year or two. He feels way older than like a 12-year-old or 14, 13, 14-year-old or whatever. But the relationships, again, it's kind of like Teen Titans, where you get like a really nice kind of close-knit group of people who play off of each other, with Sokka and Katara, this brother and sister from the South Water Tribe, the Southern Water Tribe, and then Toph eventually, who's this blind earthbender, who is one of the greatest earthbenders of all time, actually develops metal bending, which is like a cool thing you see used way more in the follow-up show. But man, I don't know. There's something just so cool about watching these characters use these elements as ways to interact not only with the world but with one another, especially in these really cool fight scenes that are so well choreographed and just are so captivating. There's specifically one I do want to mention here before I turn it over to you, Joe. Featuring the big anti-hero of the show named Zuko, he was the prince of the Fire Nation. But eventually what happened is that his dad got angry with him, and they did this thing in the Fire Nation, which they love to do to settle all of their arguments, which is an Agni Kai. It's a one-on-one duel, two firebenders. And this was a young Zuko, and his dad basically grabbed his face and burned a huge scar in it because he didn't want to fight him. And so he said, you're banished, basically. But if you go out and you find the Avatar, who no one has seen in 100 years, then you can come back. So that right there is a great character motivation. And to see him go from like pure villain in the beginning to anti-hero to eventually friend of Aang is super, super fun to watch. And he has a fight with his sister, Azula, at the end of the show. And it is an emotionally beautiful fight. Azula, known for being a great firebender in her own right, but she has blue fire, so it's a little bit different. So you get to watch them fight each other, Joe. And Zuko's got his like red and yellow fire, and she's got her blue, and it cuts, and it's just music, and it's like this kind of like percussion thing, and it's so I don't know, it's beautiful. The animation of the show, it's one of those timeless types of things where I go back to it, and I'm just like, oh my gosh, look at this, humans came up with this. And the fact that firebenders can actually bend and use lightning, that's the ace in the hole. Anyway, I love Avatar. I could go on and on about it. I think it's a really good show, and everybody should check it out. It's on Netflix. You should all go watch it if you haven't yet. Joe, any exposure to Avatar in your time?
Barely, not really, a little.
Perfect.
I just know that I heard the live action version was far superior.
I don't know who you heard that from. A brief story. I get what they were trying to do. I get it. I just remember sitting in the theaters and I was like, I don't want to say I was shaking with anger because I was with my cousins and they were like looking at me, and if you've never seen the show before, the movie's probably fine because you don't have that emotional connection to it. But like for me, I was like, how are you going to jam a whole season into a 2.5 hour show? But they're taking another stab at that with a live action version of it again on Netflix with more kind of creator control. So we will see what that looks like. So I don't know. It seems
shows
weird.
that it has a strong following if they feel it's worth resurrecting in live action and doing it on Netflix.
Yeah, there was just like fundamental issues. My biggest gripe, I think, with the live action one, Joe, is like the firebenders. If they do like punches and kicks and stuff, it shoots fire. In this movie, they couldn't do that. They needed to have like a torch or like some fire nearby. And I get maybe why like the physicality of that, to be like, well, if the waterbenders need water and the earthbenders need earth. I was just kind of like, it was so weird to see like a firebender show up and be like, here's my torch, and they put it on the ground and be like, now I have fire, and I'm like, oh, come on, guys, like it's like, come on, like, did you watch the show? But anyway, yes, if you ever want to watch the live action version, it's out there for you. That's all I gotta say. There's some cool sets. There's some cool sets and stuff. I don't know.
I don't doubt it.
Yeah. Aang had like a cool tattoo arrow that looked kind of cool. It was like different than the show. It was like all little lines that made an arrow. Anyway, Joe, what's your number one on here, buddy? Or just your last of the three?
Oh, it's my number one.
Oh.
It's my number one. Scooby-Doo, and none of that modern day bullshit. I've seen some of that new stuff the kids these days are watching. Uh.
He's messing
Uh.
with us right now. He's not
Listen, if
Scooby
they're
Doo.
running down a hallway and they're being chased by a monster or a ghost or a guy in a mask,
Hmm.
that hallway better repeat itself every 20 feet. All
Yeah,
right?
they do that a lot in shows. I've noticed now. I'm like when they're like running down like an alleyway. I'm like, wait a sec, they've been running down this alleyway for like 20 seconds. I'm like, this
I
is the
saw
longest alleyway
that
I've ever seen.
garbage can a few seconds
They're like,
ago.
I caught you. I caught you. They're like, but the kids wouldn't catch us. And you're like, you're right. You got me
I
there.
absolutely loved Scooby Doo, especially the original classic
Wait, is this your number
episode.
one?
This is my number one, Scooby
Oh,
Doo.
okay.
Yeah.
All right, dude, let's go.
Hands down. I really appreciate those original episodes. I remember as a kid, I didn't have cable growing up until I was probably like 16.
Dude,
And
yeah.
so, yeah, so I remember, and even then, well, by then probably I wasn't watching as much, but I remember up until the time I was probably like 12, 13. I was a sucker for like, if I didn't have anything going on and I was bored, I like my sister had some of the VHS tapes or the DVDs. I would pop one of those in one evening and just kick back and like, yeah, one of those Scooby Doo movies, you know. And I remember there was one, and I would actually sit and watch it. It was the I watched it. I don't know how many freaking times, but it was the one where they were actually like resurrecting the dead, the zombies in Louisiana.
That's the one everybody talks about because it's like a crazy, like out there, like why is this so captivating? Yeah, you're right. They're like in Louisiana and there's like actual zombies and stuff. It's like legit monsters. Like,
Yeah, in
yeah,
the
dude, I'm looking up.
bayou, and I remember the whole sandwich thing, just like a giant sandwich. And one day I learned that Shaggy's actually a vegetarian, so I had to always pause on the sandwich and go, "Is there any meat on there?" And sure enough, he was a vegetarian. There was no
Mm.
meat. Um, yeah, everybody talks about that one. I don't know about I never really watched any of the other movies per se, but I would always go and I would watch the classic episodes running through. And there were plenty of them to watch that it kept it fresh enough that you could kind of put it on loop and just go, you know. Um, Fact of the matter is they're just classic and they had a good vibe to them, and they had the ingredients there. You know, they created these great characters. Obviously, Shaggy and Scooby kind of, whipped cream and cherry on top of the sundae kind of a deal. And and it's classic. They were around for so long. They're still around. What a property, you know.
Yeah.
I always love the vibe of it. I love the mystery aspect. I love the just the style, and them actually, let's sleuth around, gang, see what we can find. And I would have gotten away with it too if it weren't for you meddling kids. I mean, there's something just very almost wholesome about it.
Yeah.
And there's also something about it that I think can still, the fact that it has such a classic feel. I feel like even as an adult, you can watch one of those original episodes and really appreciate it.
Yeah.
You know, um, the sounds, the music, and then the voice acting was stellar, and it wasn't overdone, right?
Sure.
And it's not like the Scooby Doo that I've seen today, where there's nothing original about it, and it's obviously animated to the gills, and it's like, not as cool, I don't know. I'm not going to continue on. Let's just put it this way: if you got a problem with Scooby Doo, then you got a problem with me, and I
Nice.
suggest you let that marinate.
Is this from something? I feel like you're quoting something here. Let me
If you
guess.
know, you know.
Oh no. Is this a Letter Kenny
If you
thing?
know, you know.
It's a Letter Kenny thing, isn't it? I nailed it. Man, I'm so good. Oh gosh. I'd like to say sometimes it's hard being me, but no, it is. It is. Anyway, by the way, it's on Zombie Island, and then they also did a Return to Zombie Island. I don't know if that's the one we're talking about here, but I think that's the one. we're
I
referring
think
to?
mine was the original one.
Yeah.
He was all. I forget. I forget. Was there something about like cats, like human cats, like giant cats or
There's like a
something?
pirate they said in this thing, like pirate ghosts, and maybe that made zombies. I
Yeah,
don't
but the
know.
pirates were trying to protect them from the ladies who were running the estate. There was like the
Uh,
cute dark-haired girl, and it turned out she was some sort of evil person, and the zombies were actually trying to protect them.
okay, hold on a sec, Joe. We got it. I got it right here. It's gonna be so good.
Give me
This
the
is
synopsis, Jimmy.
this comes from the Wikipedia. It's 1998, man. Right to video. Uh,
Was it that old?
it was after a year-long hiatus from Mystery Inc. The team gets back together. They investigated Bayou Island, said to be haunted by the ghost of the pirate Morgan Moonscar.
Yeah,
Morgan
Moonscar. Oh, so cool. What a
Moonscar.
name.
The
What a
plot
name.
revolves around Oh, you're right, dude. There's Yep. Okay, yeah, there's werecats. Werecats draining ceremony. Oh, dude.
Yep.
Man, this is messed
Yep.
up.
Something about they sucked life force out of somebody or
That's what I like
something.
about What's New Scooby Doo. I think it was kind of around this time. I like that show. It's funny too how like the movies, like the live action and then these direct ones, were like actual monsters. But then more often than not, like the TV shows were just usually like the old guy they met earlier. And he was like, like you, I wouldn't go down to the docks if I were you, kids, because there's things going on down there. And they're like, Mr.
Yeah.
Jenkins. And he's like, well, dang it. He's like, I've been doing this for 20 years, and it's stupid kids. And you
Exactly. But
darn
I
dog.
love the originality of like the made up monsters that they had. And then, yeah, it was always a guy in a mask. And as you get older, you're like, well, I know it was that guy because,
Yeah.
clearly.
There's,
But
yeah.
they were clever about it. It was good. There was
There's,
like the glow, and they had to explain things like why was the what was it, the Shipwreck Cove curse or whatever, and it was a guy in like one of those deep diving suits with
yeah.
a like domed helmet. Well, but how did he get himself to glow? Well, it's the efflorescence from the algae in the bay, and I
Mm-hmm.
mean, like they had everything, everything. It was great.
There's one
It was great.
episode where in the original, like Scooby or Shaggy learns how to throw his voice. I forget what that's called, but he uses
Yep,
it to great effect because he's like hiding in like a pot or something, and he
yep,
makes it sound
yep.
like he's in another place entirely. And I was like, it's just like a thing he like says he's been working on at like the beginning of the episode. I'm like, dude. You know what the funny thing is? If these kids weren't really that scared, it's four almost like pretty much adult sized humans and a Great Dane. Most of the like if they just decided to turn and fight, they'd probably win like probably 99% of the confrontations because it's like an old man in a
Yeah.
suit. Like if like Scooby turned and was like I'm going to take you down, like it'd be done. And if he was yelling at you in like some like Scooby English, how would you combat that? Like you just wouldn't. You'd be like, "Oh my gosh," you'd be like, "Oh, I'm gonna rescue you up." And you're like, "Oh,
I'd be like, did that dog just talk?
yeah, dude, like more people should be concerned about this. Also, I feel like whatever Scooby's eating, like they probably like those Scooby snacks, but Shaggy really likes them too. But then they give Scooby like a full sub sandwich. I just like how they can eat it and it goes sideways in their throat, and then he can be like, and you just like,
Yeah, it's great.
that's good.
Yeah,
That's good
and they're
stuff.
vegetarians, mind you. That's true.
That's true.
It's
Is
true.
is Scooby a vegetarian too?
Both of them. Neither of them
Really?
eat meat.
Okay,
Yeah,
crazy.
him and Shaggy. Like,
Well,
I loved when they're in the kitchen and that what was it, Bayou Island or whatever. They're in there and they're like the peppers. The pepper. I mean, it was so well done. That was a good storyline. Yeah, the whole werecat thing. It's like whoa,
yeah,
but I remember like Shaggy's like sweet on the dark-haired pretty girl. And it turns out she's a werecat
it's a
or
werecat,
whatever.
man. You can't
Yeah.
trust it. That's too bad. That's too bad.
But yeah, Moonscar and his shipmates or whatever were all like they were all drained of their life force or something for them, some weird thing.
Cool, man. So
Either
they're like
way,
they were good guys, so they just didn't
yeah,
come off as good guys. They're like, wait, watch out, there beware cats. And they're like that classic pirate ghosts. So they always say,
hell, that
dude.
was like a precursor to Pirates of the Caribbean, bro.
Yeah, dude, that's where Disney got their idea. No, I'm just kidding. That's not true.
Yeah.
Uh,
Um, and another thing too, that movie was a little. God, I'm trying to think of what it looked like. I almost want to go watch it again just for shits. Excuse my language. Um,
yeah, geez, this is a kids show. No, it's not.
But comparing that, like that animation style, I think was even a bit newer and more
Yeah,
modernized than those
crisp.
classic Yeah, it was.
Yeah, it was.
It was more so than those classic episodes, and I think if you go back and watch the classic episodes, that's what I'm gushing about even more because those are like somehow the way that they illustrated the environments and the settings and just the ambiance that they were able to generate through that. Or when they did like fog or like light thunderstorms, it was just really cool, good sound effects, and it's just nostalgic.
Sure.
It's just nostalgic.
Great.
So
Good number one.
that's
pick.
my number one.
There you go. I
Yeah,
didn't
thank
think it came out of left field in that one, man. That's so good.
All right.
So you guys should check out any and all of those shows if you're interested. But I really do honestly want to hear what people's are. We actually have some write-ins I'll talk about in a few minutes here. But if you guys heard ones that we talked about that you're like, yes, that's my favorite, or ones that maybe we didn't mention, love to hear about those too. And also, the biggest thing for me, it's not like I don't need to know the name so much. I want to know the and why so much more. I want to know why it spoke to you. You know, were you at just the perfect age to watch this thing? Did it hit you at a particular time in your life that made it stick with you? Maybe there were aspects of the show that, like we were talking about, that really are burned into your brain. Because, like, you could just say, like Joe could have said Scooby-Doo and been done with it. But, like, he described, like, maybe you're not going to write us a book in the comments, but still, I just want to, like, that's the stuff that I connect with and I want to know about, because that's the good stuff, baby. That's the meat and potatoes. So, yeah. Anyway, so if I ever ask and why on Twitter or Discord, that's why, because I want to know more. I want to know about you, my Legionnaires. It's so good. Anyway, Joe, that's going to wrap up our favorite kind of cartoons animated show talk. Like we said, we could do another one like on anime. That's why we're kind of maybe leaving Pokemon and Yu-Gi-Oh! Out of it, because those are kind of in a gray area. Probably technically those are anime, so you could maybe even be on the anime episode,
Yeah.
Joe. You'd be like, I like Pokemon and Yu-Gi-Oh! Be like, hey, there you go. Which were great ones. But anyway. All right, Joe, you know what that means. It's time to move on to the next segment of the show. Segment that I like to call that you look... Joe, do you hear that? Oh my gosh, Joe. Oh my gosh. 3 doors just appeared over here in my room. And they're here for you. You know what that means?
No.
Joe, you gotta stay. We're gonna die. They're gonna kill us if we don't do this. We lost him. Oh no, guys. They're gonna kill me. Oh, he's back, thank goodness. Oh gosh.
If I bow out and I don't do this, you're screwed.
The show's done. Yeah, the show's over. Yeah, guess what? That means it's time for another episode of Mystery Villain Date. Woo!
Cue the ominous music.
It's already been going on this whole time since I did the joke intro. Did I get you with it? Did you think it was Time Killer's time? Well, it's not.
I almost said it, but then you're like, wait, what was that? And I was like, something's behind me, isn't there?
Yep. So for anybody who wants to play at home, you're definitely welcome to. Basically, what we have here today, we have 3 villains from pop culture who are mysterious, and Joe has to not only determine who they are from the brief, very spoiler-free descriptions I give, but also choose one to go on a date with, because these dates, man, these are some good dates, unlike in Indiana Jones. You know what I'm saying? That's a little Raiders joke out there. Anyway, Joe, are you ready?
Ready as I'll ever be. I hope I don't die.
All right, here we go. Did you notice the change in music? Now it's more of a game show. Anyway, he's one of the most powerful villains Earth's mightiest heroes have ever faced. Able to appear and operate simultaneously around the world means our mystery guy can be quite the workaholic. Originally created by one of the most brilliant minds on Earth, our villain was purposely built for good intentions. But you know what they say about a pathway paved with good intentions? It doesn't always go well. Incredibly durable, intelligent, and able to command an entire army single-handedly, the man in question is not to be taken lightly. Here's the quote he provided with us today to represent him. I'm sorry. I know you mean well. You just didn't think it through. You want to protect the world, but you don't want it to change. How is humanity saved if it's not allowed to evolve? With these puppets, there's only one path to peace. The Avengers' extinction. Who is our mystery villain? Woo! If you want to play at home, pause now.
most certainly. It's most certainly Loki.
He's joking. He's joking.
I'm joking. Ultron. Final answer.
That's correct. And if you do choose Ultron, he says that he would promise a lovely date to any robotics expo of your choosing. He didn't say why. That's fine.
Okay, cool.
Our next contestant. Are you ready? Here we go. A woman clad in chromium armor, our next contestant is all about fashion, meeting function. Often seen amongst a group of fellow warriors, this individual enjoys the role of leadership. While her armor may stand out from her fellow soldiers, that's not all she brings into the battlefield. She also carries a Quicksilver baton, a droid that shocks enemies in an area, and an F-11D blaster. This is the quote she provided today. You are always scum. Who is our mystery villain?
FN2187. Definitely. Wow, why does her name escape me at the moment? Captain Phasma.
That's correct! Oh my gosh. Captain Phasma
Calm down,
says...
Jimmy, I got you.
She says if chosen, she would offer a full tour of a First Order Star Destroyer, which are definitely escape-proof. Joe and I can attest
Captain
to that.
Phasma, final answer.
We're not done yet, Joe. You might like our final contestant more.
Okay.
Which is this. Our final contestant tonight is a bit more hands-on when it comes to his line of work. Also known as the Terminator, our mystery man enjoys killing for a paycheck. The serum enhanced muscles, allowing him to move faster and be much stronger than an average human. But the best part is, it allowed him the ability to think 9 times faster too. Think of this guy on Jeopardy! Although he is in his late 50s, he only appears to be about 35 years young. To add on to his physicality and years of military training, he also packs a full arsenal of weapons and gadgets to hunt down any target. This is the quote he gave us. I don't want to kill them. I don't even want to kill you. But I can't abide you trying to kill me. Who is our mystery villain?
Deathstroke.
That's correct! The show can go on! If you do pick Deathstroke, he says he will offer you the once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to take on a mission with him. So who do you pick as your mystery villain?
Captain Phasma, final answer.
Congratulations, Joe! You've won an all-expense-paid trip to a First Order Star Destroyer, where you may or may not be conscripted to be a stormtrooper within the First Order. Hey!
Right, I'm done. It's on. You think Kylo Ren will be there?
He won't be. Do you really want to be near him if he gets angry? He might destroy a computer console. You know,
yes, please get angry. Slash me. Strike me down. I don't care.
First day as a stormtrooper, Joe walks up. Hey, where's this Kylo guy? Come get me, baby. Captain's like, I like the cut of your jib, sir. Like, you've been promoted. And you're like, all right, corporal. Sounds good. I don't know ranks.
First order of business, I want a black uniform.
You're like, I want a black uniform made of chromium armor as well. I'm not really familiar with chromium. I looked this stuff up on the Wikipedia, and I hope it's legit. So if it's not, and you're a Captain Phasma fan, then I'm sure you'll let me know. Anyway, Joe, well done.
You got a problem with Jimmy's quotes. You got a problem with me, and I suggest you let that marinate.
What's up with you and the marinade thing? It's like a catchphrase that you stole from another show. Yeah, he totally stole from another show. That's okay. That's all right. I still want to get the copyright strikes. They'll come after us, Joe, even for catchphrases now. No, he's thinking about
what you talking about?
Perfect. But you know what I'm talking about? What all these people like to do for a living mostly. And that's killing. Killing time, baby.
Killing time.
We're moving into that segment of the show that we all like to call.
What do we call it, Jimmy?
Time Killers. Time Killers, everybody. Joe liked that one a lot. He didn't think I was ready for it, but I'm on the ball, baby.
Oh, no, I never doubt you.
Thank you. It's the games we've been playing, the movies and TV shows we've been viewing. Joe, what have you been watching lately? Anything special? Anything fun?
I'm at the mercy of whatever Haley is watching most of the time.
And what is Haley watching?
I was hanging by the produce stand with my buds the other day.
What is happening? Are you gonna start a
Jimmy,
rap?
how are you now?
What is happening?
You're supposed to say good and you?
Good, and you?
Oh, not so bad.
Uh-oh.
Oh, yeah, I still watch a lot of Letterkenny. That
Oh.
hasn't changed. I love it. Yeah, did I talk about that last week? I believe I did.
Yeah, you did.
Anywho, great show, fun. I love it. I love the humor in it. It's good.
Continue. Anything
The
new?
unfortunate part is that for some reason I find it slightly relatable. Maybe reminds me of my hometown, which had only a few more people in it. And if you really get down to where my hometown was, it was a lot less people, like 10 times less. Anywho, 100 times less. Yeah. Ooh, holy shnikes. Anywho, besides the point. Gosh, I watched like 3 episodes of Breaking Bad before the podcast.
What? Wait, like season 1?
No, like somewhere in the middle, he's already bald. And
Wait, okay.
The only episode I had ever seen before this was them dissolving the body in the bathtub, and it
That's like
wasn't
the
a
first
porcelain
episode.
tub.
Okay, so
Oh,
wait.
really?
Yeah, so you watched, like, tonight you watched that, or like over the past couple of days?
I caught like an episode and a half, I guess. It was where they get kidnapped by this Mexican cartel guy.
Season 2,
and
probably.
Probably, sure.
And
It's
Haley's
all fine.
watching this?
I don't. Yeah, she likes it. She thinks it's gripping, like it sucked her in. I get it, but
So you've
still not necessarily my cup.
You've watched like some of the first episode, and then maybe like an episode and a half out of 3 episodes, halfway through the second season.
First episode of Breaking Bad, they dissolve a dead body in a bathtub.
I'm pretty sure they do. Yeah, that's how they gotta grip people.
First episode.
That's how cable works. You have to have either really like a sexy time, or you need to have like a little bit of a murdery time, or you have both.
Sexy time.
I'm telling you, if you watch the pilot for almost any cable television show, it has to have one of those 2 things in it. And sometimes it has both. So if it starts off with a brutal
violence.
If it has a brutal murder in the first 5 minutes, you have checked off one of the boxes.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, it's a retention rate thing. You get people sucked in with that kind of stuff because people are like, oh, what's that? That's why Law and Orders often start with like they found a dead body. What happened here? So.
Future prediction for Time Killers, Outriders, I hope.
Yeah.
Boom. That's it for me, Jimmy. On to you.
That's good. Yeah, I was saying Static Shock earlier. Outriders, though. I'm looking forward to that. A little more Dark Souls 2. I think that's pretty much it. I've just been watching a lot of Static Shock. I'm on to season 3. It's pretty good. I think season 3. Yeah, check it out. HBO Max got a lot of stuff on there, man. I'm feeling better and better about HBO Max. Oh man, Godzilla vs Kong. It just can't come soon enough. Anyway, Joe, let's move on to my personal favorite segment of the show, which is community feedback and questions. I'm sorry I beat you to it. I didn't know if you were gonna say it, so I wanted to. You maybe do Time Killers.
Lean in for the questions.
He had to lean in and do all that. Oh my gosh, that poor boy.
All right, Jimmy, you did a good job.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it. So this one, I asked our lovely Legionnaires, what was their favorite animated shows growing up? Missile Mage on Twitter, he sent in this, and I had to look it up. Wind, Rain, Shadow, Wood, Sword, Thunder, Power, Sleep. I was like, I don't know what you're talking about. Apparently that's Card Captors. And I said, and why? And then he said, as a kid, the show just captured my imagination, the idea of every enemy becoming a power the main character now has, and I grew attached to the characters very early on. Sounds like Mega Man a little bit, right? Joe's like, I'm intrigued. I'm intrigued by this. Yeah? You ever see Card Captors, Joe? I have never seen Card Captors.
For some reason, it rings a bell. I can't put my finger on it.
Can't put his finger on it. Don't put your finger on it. Don't you get hurt.
I wouldn't put my finger on it.
This one comes in from Zora Caviar, and I asked him later on if he meant this show, because he just said he wanted to do a shout out to Netflix's Love, Death, and Robots. Each episode is a standalone, short, kind of like Black Mirror, and has a completely different tone and visual style than the others. It's really an incredible show that keeps surprising you with each episode. I heard really mixed things on it. So maybe that's like it's kind of like the Birdie Bots every flavored beans of a show like that, where it's just you never know, like Black Mirror, you never know what you're gonna get on the next one. Like one's like really horror, one's like kind of like a nice romance, and like the other ones are like, oh man, existential crisis. Yeah. And Mekareka says he agrees that show's pretty awesome. This one comes in from Anna. She says, Teen Titans, the animated series, always slaps. I love the characters, their development, and their dynamics with each other. I enjoyed the balance of storytelling, action, seriousness, and fun that they kept with these superheroes. Yes. Agreed. Perfect. And Zora also wrote in about Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood, but that's an anime, and we are not going to talk about that here today. I'm just kidding. Thank you for writing in. He's right. It's all killer, no filler. Joe, you'd probably like Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood. I think you would appreciate it. I've
heard of
tale.
Full Metal Alchemist, but I don't know what it is, what it's about, anything.
It's an anime. And there's 2 versions of it, but there's some people like one version better than the other. That's kind of how it goes. Yeah, that's okay. This is a question. This one comes in also from Anna on the Discord. She says, what game will you always go back and play, no matter how many times you finished it? Or continue to play it, I guess maybe is a good question. Video game. They come in video form now. They're not just boards anymore. That's a pretty fun little joke I just came up with.
A lot of them come with sequels now, so it's a tough answer. They're a tough question to answer. But I mean,
I got it. It's easy.
To date, I would say Monster Hunter World.
Sure. I think the question, it's funny because like you could answer this in a lot of different ways. In my brain, I think of games that like you actually do beat and it's like done and then you like start over and go back to it. For me,
technically you do beat Monster Hunter World.
I think you only beat Monster Hunter World once you beat Fatalis. And let's be honest, neither of us has done that yet. And if I beat him, I don't know if I'd be like, I'll start over again with Great Jagras. Which, by the way, I was talking to Joe about this the other day and we were streaming this. If you play Monster Hunter for too long like I have, and you go back and you help low-rank hunts take out those Great Jagras in like 4 or 5 hits, feels so good, help the low-rank hunters. I think for me, it's Pokemon Snap. I love that game. I know the new one's coming up. There's something about that game when I can go play it. It's just like 2.5 hours, and it's like, it's the same every time, but it's different because you get different shots of the Pokemon, and sometimes you're like, hey, Oak, you're killing me, man. Like, why aren't you giving me points on this? And he's like, wonderful. And sometimes he just thinks your shot is garbage, and you're like, it's clearly better. And he's like, nope. So.
Hey, you can't argue with a critic.
Yep, I know. But anyway, so that'd be mine, probably. That and the original Fire Emblem on Game Boy Advance, which is Fire Emblem 7, Blazing Sword. That's a really freaking good game. Joe, is there any others? Area 51?
Fire Emblem?
Fire Emblem?
Area 51, wow. No, I don't. Can you even find a working PS2 anymore?
Probably not. Speaking of PS2s, this one comes in from Play the Pathless, aka Missile Mage, over on our Discord. He says, Sony just announced more games are coming to PC. So, easy question. What games would you most like to see make the jump to PC? I think pretty much, Reagan said this, and I agree with him, the new Ratchet & Clank game would be nice. I think any first-party Sony game that isn't on PC would be really cool to see on there. Because I feel like the second I mention one of these, I tried to research it before the show, Joe. Like Horizon Zero Dawn, the one where you fight the robot dinosaurs, that's on PC now. Days Gone, the one where you have like the motorcycle in the zombie apocalypse, that one's coming to PC. Yeah. It's like I want them to do that with all, like with God of War and all these other first party things like Spider-Man, which some of those may or may not be on there. I think it's just, why would you limit your ability? I get it, like you want them to buy them on your machine, right? Like you wanted to buy them on your console. But like, why would you, like, they even said like economically now, it just makes more sense to put out these things a year or a year and a half later on PC. Just put them all on there, baby. You know, if you want to wait a while, I get it. But you're just going to make some money because there's PC players out there who will probably never buy a PlayStation because they're like, yeah, my rig is better than a PlayStation in every way, and I don't want to have to like downgrade or pay hundreds of dollars for something just to play an exclusive game that is only one game. You know, like if you loved God of War and then you were gotten really into PC gaming, you'd be like, am I buying a whole console for one game? Like maybe some people do, but I totally get it. So I would love to see more of that. PlayStation, good for you. It's just more crossplay, guys. Let me play with my PlayStation buddies. My Sony Pony friends, man. That's why I'm so happy about that Outriders demo, Joe. Crossplay demo? God, you love them. You love them for it, Joe. you love them for it, right?
Yeah, it is cool. That is cool because
So cool.
I'll be honest, I find myself as I get older, especially with the things that a PC can do and the advantages it can give you, if they could continue with crossplay as a trend for most games,
Yeah.
which obviously Call of Duty is becoming almost the standard now, just because of some of the advantages that you get from it. You plug controller in and everything, so it's not much different. But yeah, if that continues to be the trend, a PC is just so versatile. And also, if you're going to play anything that's competitive in nature, it just seems like the right move in my mind. Plus, I think a PC maybe has a bit more. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong, but longevity of sorts. But like I said, the versatility I think is another key aspect of it. You can do a lot more than just games.
Yeah.
The one drawback that I feel there would be, going away from console to PC gaming is my entertainment. That Xbox sits at the TV entertainment system because that's what I use for everything. Hulu, Netflix, all of it. I use it. I access it through that. Not that I'd have to, but yeah, I don't know. I feel like that's the only drawback. I forget what the question was. I'm sorry.
That's fine. You can open up like web browsers and stuff, or you could connect to your PC to your television and then just like have a controller that's plugged into it. I think the issue you have with like competitiveness, if you're doing all the crossplay stuff, like for the first-person shooters, is the mouse and keyboard just typically has like an advantage over that. But the ones where it's like
sometimes
some okay, are there times that that's not the case? Please, can you say it in one sentence? Can you just? I don't want. I feel like I'm looking on the breach of a rabbit hole, and I feel like I shouldn't be here. Like I shouldn't have even said it. Like I'm like, oh no.
Mouse and keyboard, yeah, you do get the articulation and the pinpoint precision, and you can control recoil a lot better apparently, for like first-person shooters. But you don't get aim assist like you do on controller. So beginner abilities, you're probably better off on controller as opposed to mouse and keyboard. Plus, mouse and keyboard, that takes some getting used to, right? It's not as form-fitting and articulate or ergonomic as a controller, which I think feels more natural to most. So, anywho.
Perfect. That's great.
Yeah. Sometimes mouse keyboard can be more accurate. You're right.
I was gonna say though, you made a good point about crossplay. I think I want that to be a thing going forward that more companies are cool with, or just like Sony's cool with, because I think we'll see a lot of games that probably would have died on the vine live a bit longer because it's like a co-op game. Like for instance, Outriders is coming up. Because it's crossplay, I think it'll have more legs because you have people who are like, yeah, dude, I'd play with you, but I'm on this and, you're on that and we can't play together and like, I don't know. But now if there's like fewer hurdles to overcome for these games that don't require it to be super competitive, but more so cooperative, I think crossplay is just like, it's so cool. Because like, I'm so sick of having that conversation with people. It's like, okay, you only have a PC, or you only, like for me, I've got like Xbox, you got PlayStation, or vice versa. And it's like what subscriptions do you have? I don't have that subscription. Like doing all this stuff. For now, you can just be like, oh yeah, this game has crossplay. We can all just play together. It's like, okay, oh thank goodness. Okay, so yes. In short, if you want to play Outriders with us, you totally should. I'm excited about this game. I don't know why I've been pitching it to so many people. I just think it's cool. I think it's just a cool game. I'm interested to play. Anyway, great questions, guys. Thank you so much. And by the way, Joe, the question basically was, what other games do we want to see from PlayStation go on to PC eventually?
Oh, sure.
So yeah. I don't know if the Sly Cooper games are on PC. I'm not sure. I don't want to say either way, but anyway, I just want to see more PlayStation games on PC because there's a lot of people on PC who'd probably love PlayStation games, especially running at higher frame rates. Like some games that are like exclusive to PlayStation in the past, I'm like, oh, if they were on PC, this would not be a thing. Xbox, same thing, same way. Anyway, great questions, guys. Thank you so much for writing in. I appreciate it so much. If you ever have a topic like Wes did today, he just sent that in as a question. He's like, what are your top 3 favorite animated shows of all time? I was like, we'll make that into a podcast. That's so cool. So if you have any questions like that, like I said the other week, I probably should have tagged them, but one of my favorite podcasts, Unlocking the Magic, they just do a Would You Rather like episode. So if you guys have like a fun idea, like if you want to see that, I can either make them all up, or if you guys have like a bunch of Would You Rathers, you can send it to us like entertainment wise. It's really fun. Like those episodes, they're always enjoyable to me. I don't know why. I think they're just cool. But just send them in on Twitter or on our Discord. But on Twitter, you can just use the hashtag Critical Podcast, and you can send them to the Critical Reviews Twitter account, which is @GoCritical, or you can tweet them at me personally. I'm at JimmyGood013. Just tweet me like a funny, any good GIF or meme that you can find about pretty much anything. Yeah, send it my way. I love it. Joe, if they wanted to find you on Twitter, where would they find you? Find you somewhere.
At JoeLever_627.
Very good. Excellent. I want to thank the people who just like make it to the end of these videos. So if you did make it to the end, I want you to, in the comments, or you can tweet this with the hashtag. I think Ryan might be the only guy who still does this. So thank you, Ryan. You're amazing. What should we give Ryan this week, Joe? Hashtag cartoon. Hashtag cartoon. There you go. Just do that.
I like it.
It's just simple. Hashtag cartoon if you made it this far. If you want to support us, you can go check out our other various links, like to our Instagram, uploading stuff there all the time. We have a Spreadshirt, but I think I might be switching it over to Teespring, because I think the quality of their stuff might be like, instead of it kind of like inked onto the t-shirt, I think it's like ingrained to the t-shirt, because like my original Critical Review shirt is kind of starting to fall apart a little bit. I'm like, yeah.
That's more like an iron-on.
Yeah, I think I could be wrong. Maybe they've changed their practices, but yeah. If you really want to support us, though, just leave a comment below. I would appreciate that. Thank you for everybody who's been watching the videos lately. We've got a ton of new subscribers here. If there's anybody who is brand new to the channel or newish to the channel, and you watched this and got this far, or you're listening in on Spotify or whatever else, let me know. I would love to hear if there's just even one new listener. That would be cool. I would love to hear that. It'd be so much fun to just be like, oh, cool. So yeah, it was really great. Actually, there's somebody who started watching us from another group that I follow, Provost Park Bask. This group's called Heartland Family Adventures. They started commenting on a bunch of the videos. I started watching their videos. It's great. I love just meeting new people. It's great. I love it.
Yeah, definitely.
What was I going to say? Last thing. Oh, and obviously a huge thank you to our patrons who, support us financially every month. That means a lot to us. You don't have to do that. If you want to, you can. But just you watching this, that means a lot to me. And again, if you are listening to this specifically on Spotify or something else, I hope it sounds good. Let me tell me on your end if it's good. I want to know if it's good. If there's a place to leave a review, do it. And then maybe tag me, because I gotta find out where these reviews are. So if I get a 1 out of 5, I just want to know why. I just want to know why. So yeah, that'd be great. Anyway, Joe, out of all of these people though, I appreciate you the most. I'm just kidding.
I appreciate you as well, and I even have a joke for you. Obi-Wan Kenobi to Anakin as Anakin's dying on the banks of the lava river. Mustafar? What's that place called? Mustafar, right?
Very good, very good.
He yells to him, "How am I going to explain this to your son?" Obi-Wan in A New Hope to Luke, or Luke to Obi-Wan, excuse me. "How did my father die?" Obi-Wan tells him, "A barbecue accident."
Bravo. He did it, everybody. He got it. If only he would have said that to him. And then in Empire Strikes Back, he's like, "That's impossible. He said you died in a barbecue accident." He's like, "Trust me, Luke, underneath this armor, it's not looking good." Like,
definitely looks like some. It definitely looks like some shredded brisket, pulled pork.
"Son, when's the last time you went to a famous Dave's?" He's like, "What?" "It's like that.
My legs look like bacon that sat in the pan too long."
I'm like an all-American feast with the trash can included. Ugh. "Dad, you know a lot about this barbecue joint." He's like, "I love it. We should go sometime and talk about how we're going to overthrow my boss. It's going to be so good. It's going to be so good." That's a bad Darth Vader impression. I'm sorry, guys. I love Vader. That's a good joke, Joe. Well done. Well done. I'm not going to bust up my Star Wars jokes because I don't think I can top it. So, Joe, with that, thank you. Thank you, everybody. We appreciate you guys so much for listening. And until next time, just remember to adapt and overcome. Bye-bye.